if we look at common client problems that we face, there's a couple. The big one that I find is you will encounter many a times, if you haven't already, you will at some point, is overeating or emotional eating. Historically and physiologically, like we as humans are pretty much hardwired to eat when we're stressed, sad, bored, angry. There's something in our physiology and just, us as, I guess, cave people where it's hardwired for us to do that. Emotional eating is often defined as eating in a response to a negative emotion, and it is directly correlated to binge eating. So research shows that 75% of overeating is typically linked to emotional eating. So in addition to cortisol-induced or stress cravings, there are also other common triggers to binge eating, which is typically social eating, childhood habits, mindless eating, also negative self-sabotaging thoughts that people will have or clients will have, which then also lead to cycles of hunger and restriction. So that like reward sort of system that people will have which is linked to exercise. So, I had this workout, I'm exhausted, now I deserve X, whatever it is, treat, donut, whatever. All of these things lead to overeating. Again, client comes to you with a problem. Oh my God, I had this weekend where I binged, or, I had this thing happen to me at work. What do I do? These are 5 strategies that can help you manage this when a client comes to you with this problem. Now, some of them might seem pretty obvious, but when you actually put it into practice, I find over time, it can help you, I guess, teach your client a couple of strategies to overcome this themselves. It's about self-management, but it also helps you help them if you're, I guess, getting them to put things to paper. So like having them write a food diary, so making them more accountable about what foods and beverages they're having throughout the week, and then also kind of writing down a food diary when it comes to how they feel in certain situations and what they're eating when that situation arises. It can be a bit, I guess, laborious to kind of ask your client to literally write down their thoughts, feelings, emotions when they're eating, the times these things are happening. But if you have a client that I find, I guess, or that you find is doing this repetitively, so this is like a pattern of behavior, having them to really, I guess, journal their thoughts, journal their food, what kind of foods are they, I guess, going for when these situations arise. It can really help them to be mindful, which is number 2, about how they're feeling, and get them to recognize that they are using food as a coping strategy and that it's probably not the best strategy for them, especially when they have fitness and well-being or health goals in mind, hence why they're coming to you. So number 2 is practicing mindfulness when eating. So this is more about like, getting them to be, I guess, in the moment where they're eating. So, telling them to like, okay, slow down when you're eating, cut out distractions, like turn off the TV, make sure that you're in the moment, enjoying your meal, not just mindlessly eating. And it's also a good thing to try and get your clients to do this when they're also in social situations. Oftentimes I find when clients are often, I guess, tending to overeat or emotionally eat, it's because they're around other people. It's not when they're sitting by themselves, sitting there, locked into their goals. It's when they're, I guess, getting caught up in the moment. There's I'm not going to say peer pressure, but it's more like there's people laughing, there's good times, there's happy chats, and then there's food around too. So they're probably going to tend to overeat. So if you get them to, I guess, be more mindful about where they are, what their goals are, also, I guess, giving them, I guess, parameters of how they can still be in certain situations and manage what they put in their mouth, it can help you just help them, I guess, overcome the tendency to overeat in those situations. Like, it's okay to say no, you can have some, I guess if you plan ahead or track your foods ahead of time, at least you can enjoy, but don't go, I guess, overboard, still kind of be mindful of how much you're having, have portion control, things like that. The third point is recognizing hunger. This one's a bit, I guess, more an advanced, I guess, strategy, because you have to try and teach your client how to recognize what hunger is and what boredom is. That can kind of take time, but it's about them, I guess, being more conscious of whether they're eating when they're bored, eating when they're stressed, and I guess kind of asking them, are you actually hungry? So that's kind of more of a long-term strategy, but the other 2 are more, I guess, current things that you can do now in the moment. And then over time, as they become, I guess a bit more in tune with their body and their emotions and how they react and how they cope with certain situations, you can get them to practice recognizing hunger and making sure that, they stop themselves before they then tend to, I guess, overeat or, seek food for comfort. The fourth one is also, again, a bit more of a psychological way of looking at it, but you have to get them to stop self-sabotaging thoughts. So when I say this, I mean, clients who tend to overeat or are emotional eaters will tend to get into that spiral sort of pattern where, they go into like fuck it mentality. So it's, oh, I've had, a shit day today, I've eaten, well, what's tomorrow and what's the rest of the week? Like I fucked the week up. Do you know what I mean? So they kind of go into, okay, like this one occasion becomes a week. So you got to kind of get them to stop themselves when that happens. Tell them like, okay, like accept the situation for what it was. It's happened. We need to move on. That kind of leads into them building resilience and also telling them that, okay, you clearly have a thing where it comes to seeking food and comfort from food when certain situations arise. We need to kind of look at other coping strategies in order for you to, I guess, manage your stress or manage certain situations. A lot of this is sort of mind over matter, but there are a couple of strategies that you can provide or help your client build resilience and help them stop self-sabotaging thoughts by, number one, is tell them to, or I guess help them stop dramatizing situations. Like it's not do or die. No, nothing bad's going to happen. It's about just moving on. If something's happened, just take the next day as a new day and a new day to kind of go in the right direction. Also tell them to try not to make it personal. So yes, they overate. Yes, they, might have sought comfort in food, but tell them that it's not a reflection of the person that they are. Like their worth is not linked to how they've I guess put themselves in that situation. And again, you just have to help them, I guess, walk to the next step, which is to get out of it and look at ways to obviously not kind of keep going back to this pattern of behavior. Give them perspective. So give them, I guess, your opinions on how they can kind of shift out of it. Tell them that obviously, like when you're in those situations, this is what I would do, like give them the tools, tell them, we can, if we know about situations that might arise that could stir up some anxiety for you, you're going to go out for dinner somewhere, you have a social event, I would probably look at, giving myself a time limit, maybe leave after an hour or so I'm not feeling anxious and like I might actually give in to people, things like that. Like there are, I guess, a couple of strategies that you can provide your clients to help them kind of build up that resilience to not overeat or not to seek food for an emotional support when they find themselves in these situations. A couple of more strategies that I think are pretty helpful is number one, I love this one, which is out of sight, out of mind. So if your client is someone that obviously, loves food, if you take out the trigger foods from their house, their home environment, their office, anywhere that they might tend to go for things, they're not going to think about it. So completely eliminating the trigger foods can be a big one. Number two, and this is, I guess, just what any coach would do when you start working with a client, is you're trying to build a good nutritional foundation with them from the start. So provide them with a meal plan, give them, I guess, options for their foods that are better than, what they might have had before. So, make sure that they're going for more whole foods. They're not having so many packaged foods. Like tell them that, if during the week, if they're a lifestyle client, if they eat, Monday to Friday on your meal plan, then they can have the weekend to enjoy or be a bit more flexible. All of these things will depend on the client. So not every approach will be the same. If it's a comp prep client, you might not have any rules. It's meal plan only, no leeway. It just depends. But allowing them to build a good foundation from the start and slowly allowing them a bit more flexibility as they can show you that they can stick to their meal plan, stick to their macros, and they don't have as many, I guess, instances where they do overeat and they're able to manage it. They can, I guess, be afforded more flexibility. They're allowed to have more, I guess, fun foods, soul foods, whatever it might be. The last one is, if in doubt, always have a plan B, a C, and a D. So clients that typically write down their plan, their meal plan, they know what they're eating the next day. They know how they're going to approach either a certain situation or event. So they know that they've banked calories. They know that they're going to be, I guess, sticking to, one portion of one portion of food or one plate of food, not going back for seconds, not going to a buffet. They know that the next day they're probably going to be eating a little bit less to counteract or just balance out their calories. The clients that do that typically are going to be sticking to their plan and will typically stay on track. So they're not going to be the ones that will tend to overeat and have this happen time and time again. The next thing is, again, more solutions to the problem of overeating is that, number one, plan ahead where possible. So a big thing I like to tell my clients is if they know that an event is coming up, to tell me. So this is number two, get your clients to be open and transparent with you. Make them tell you when these things are coming up. If you don't know about them, if they don't tell you that an event is coming up, you can't help them. It's very difficult for you as a coach to help a client if they go, oh, hey, by the way, tomorrow I have this event, or tomorrow I'm going to this weekend away. When they're in a deficit, it's really hard to help them when they haven't been transparent with you. How are you meant to help a client if you don't know what's going on? So it's about you creating that relationship, making sure that you know whether or not they're having a hard time in their relationship, if they're having a hard time at work, so kind of build a good rapport with your clients so they are open with you. And if they're open with you, make sure that you tell them to tell you when they have things coming up. So when they have events, make sure they tell you a week in advance, I say at least. So it allows you as the coach time to provide them with a plan so that they can go into that event feeling prepared, feeling like they can go in without any guilt because they know what to do. When I say that, I mean, let's say if I know that my client has an event next Saturday, Monday to Friday, we plan out their week so that Monday to Friday during the week when they have control of their calories and they have control of what they can consume, that they're eating on plan. They're sticking to certain calories and it's typically lower so that they have banked up calories and have created a calorie budget for themselves so that they can enjoy that Saturday night out with their friends or their family or that work function and not feel guilty because they have enough calories there so that they know that if they stick within that by the time the Sunday comes or the weekend comes, that they haven't gone over their weekly average of calories. So again, strategies only work if you can plan ahead of time. Yes, you can balance out the week, or I guess, what's the word? I guess if a client tells you last minute about something, you can obviously do all of this the next following week, but it's not ideal. I always think if you can plan ahead, there's both ends of the coin that you can kind of, I guess, balance out what they've done, whether it's, going up in weight on the scale, if they're mentally kind of in distress, at least you're kind of preempting the situation and not having to undo any damage. You can kind of set them up for success and you can kind of keep going on with the process. The third one is tell them to basically get on track straight away. For me, it's not a Saturday becomes a Sunday and a Monday. It's Saturday and that's it. Give it one day, so it's one occasion and that's it. Make sure that they jump back straight away the next day and tell them to move on. Things happen, so there will be times where stress will set in and they might eat a chocolate bar or whatever. These things happen, it's life. It's okay, but they need to know that they need to move on and get back to it. Especially if their goal is fat loss, you need to tell them that it's about getting back on and it's about that consistency. Things can happen here and there, but it's consistency that matters at the end of the day. Reminding them of their goal. This is a big one when it comes to people who will constantly overeat week in and week out. The thing about providing clients with tips and tricks on how to allow flexibility is that sometimes it's a bit of a double-edged sword where they can go, oh, if I can budget my calories every week, can I do that every time I want to go out on a Saturday and Sunday? If their goal is fat loss, I would say no. They can't just keep doing this, I guess, counterbalance of, Monday to Friday eat in a aggressive deficit, and then on the weekends they can splurge. It doesn't work that way. Yes, you can obviously extend dieting phases. Yes, all of these things can be used, but you can't kind of bastardize a tool that is just meant to be a tool when a situation arises. It should be a once-off sort of solution.